Hello then, and well, after 18 months, us being the first major film to be reshuffle around before as everything happened, the final James Bond film, and when Daniel Craig's character is here with No Time to Die. Hi, this one, even before all this happened, had quite an interesting journey with apparently Kei Fukunaga, the man who directed both chapters of It, wasn't even the first person attached to a project. That mean, my first choice, Danny Boyle, he was actually he attached fairly early on, but he left the project to pursue other ones. And then there was a lot of stuff like one interesting footnote in all this was the fact that reportedly both Apple and Netflix offered Sony the $600 million each for the rights, and they turned them down. But thankfully, the potential sale of MGM to Amazon is not did not affect the release too much, and this last day finally stuck, and I have to say, it was also worth the wait, to say the least. In a way, this film is definitely something of like a brutal yet bittersweet swan song for this version of the character, her her over 15 years of storytelling. I mean, whoever ends up being the next one to wear the suit, it's definitely going to be interesting, as well as the director. On that subject, while some people had reservations about Lashana Lynch's role in this movie, the I think a lot of you might be pleasantly surprised as to see how this works. She ended up being my favorite one since Tracy from um, On Majesty's Secret Service, which is an entry I find to be criminally underrated, and in fact this movie has a lot of parallels with that. I'm not gonna say hey why or how, but if and when I do get my Bond thon movies, I had to push that back. Heck, I mean, just some personal stuff going on outside this channel, and I'll definitely be getting a lot of details, I mean, about that sense, and especially interesting to see how this how the locales they do in this movie, and same deal with like Roman Wallach's role as like the antagonist Safin. While with Fukunaga taking over the project, a lot of scenes with him almost play like a horror movie, and you see it, you'll definitely understand why. Yeah. And while horror is definitely a genre that is by design, adapts to a changing landscape based on the fears and concerns about how our reality. He, I just say that espionage and spy fiction is a close second, like how and Bond as a franchise has actually been able to transition, like how, and again, they totally call it how Russia and other foreign powers no longer need traditional arms or even giant and nuclear weapons to raise concerns, and they can just cause trouble behind a keyboard. I mean, or whether it's large scale hail or even small scale, like seriously, what kind of moof milker was doing that at about Star Wars? I mean, honestly, hey, it's one thing if not into a film, but trying to mess with it for everyone else is something else entirely. But trying not to get too off track here, but the music, of course, is excellent. I really liked Hans Zimmer's score in this movie. His arrangement of the familiar theme, and also how Billie Eilish, who I usually don't listen to that much, but uh, well, I actually heard like the No Time to Die single over a year ago before when the movie came out. I mean, that was right when it was supposed to be on track, and again before everything happened, and the series itself also in that regard definitely is like provides another sort of portrait of what kind of music is popular, like how some ones actually peg it to a specific film or an decade when it came out into like Tom Jones and Thunderball. Oh, I mean, like Carly Simon's by Who Love Me. I mean, Duran Duran with A View to a Kill. I mean, like Bottom of the HMU2 who doing the one with Goldeneye, but Tina Turner singing the music to it. I mean, and of course Chris Cornell, rest his soul, doing the Casino Royale music. Like I mean, and that's also why I actually don't have a problem with any potential choices for her, who they might pick next, because even like the non-canon Casino Royale 1967, which, given how absurd it was, basically like a proto Austin Powers or Kingsman in some respects, it's not a total stretch, and also they work in the idea of a story that Bond is not just one man or person. That the 007 and it being a title rather than one individual, and whatever happens, I'll definitely be interested to see what happens next. And yeah. Before I get into my coming attractions, this also reflects, with all the delays, the main is of how, I mean, people were immediately concerned about how this might affect the returns, especially given how, whereas as other companies like, say, like Disney and WB, he had their own content to fall back on when they, I mean, not just for ones that actually have switched in that model, but ones even like were filmed before time, the long ago had at least it's locked in, like Space Jam and Cruella, but about how more people were getting their shots and how that might affect. And I often argue that there's both a room for both a legacy model and a new one, as well as the idea, that specific films are going to need specific drivers. And based on what I'm seeing, looks like I was right. Like so far, at least $93 million domestically, and already banked over $100 million overseas, and some markets it hasn't even opened yet. So, I mean, especially given how Shang-Chi, he was the first one to break $200 million stateside, since Bad Boys for Life over a year ago. Can Bond pull off a similar feat? Not out of the question, I submit. It's, I mean, since I'm not sure about doing Skyfall level numbers, but if it matches or beats Spectre, I think it should be a nice little bow to wrap up this run of the character end. So this may not be my favorite entry with Craig, no my favorite film of the year, but it's definitely gonna be on the list. So I give this last entry with him as Bond, a strong 3.5 out of 4, and now I should get into my coming attractions. Okay, Venom Every Carnage. I know that one just came out, but some of the venues close to me haven't quite gotten it yet. And in fact, the venue I just saw this Ball movie in. We'll be getting that next week, so you should see my review of that at the earliest. It's already actually outpacing its senior, which, by the by, came out in a very different cinematic landscape before all this stuff started happening. And it's like I said, if a specific film has interest, then it's definitely going to be a draw there. Here, where I'd say the least. I mean, and also, oh, I definitely have heard that again. Some more of the worst kept secrets about it, but I'm not going to be addressing them until after I see it next week. So Dune, which will be coming the week after that, October 22nd, and this, and Denis Villeneuve, a director who has worked on films I've enjoyed before, like the first Sicario, as well as Blade Runner 2049, which ended up my favorite film in 2017. He is directing this latest adaptation of Frank Herbert's seminal science fiction novel, where it's being compared to almost having the same impact that in this particular version that Star Wars Lord of the Rings might have, and let's hope so, because I can understand why a lot of people find like the Lynch one to be a cult classic, but I did not particularly care for that one. And I'm not a bit surprised that Lynch has his name taken off the director's cut, which made largely without his involvement. I mean, he did not have a good experience behind that. But I believe that further filming that both parts of this at the same time, given how big the book is and how dense the novel is, kind of do with it and Pirates of the Caribbean and Back to the Future as well. Also, and I think the next part will be hey, next year or two. I'm also planning series and like the last miniseries I did on sci-fi wasn't too bad, but I didn't even realize James McAvoy was in it until he started giving interviews who's about it towards or in advice for the new cast. In terms of how they things like cast systems, power dynamics, and how it really leans into like the harder side of a sci-fi high, high genre. It has been in some regards to Game of Thrones, but just a lot of people view like the '84 film as like in the same regards like the infamous last couple of seasons of the show. Since I will just deal with House of Dragons as it comes, and I really hope it does well enough. And if and when and the winter is finished, that they'll be able to take another crack at it, hopefully, because in many respects, just basing your script off a bunch of notes and mostly having to write stories is out of nothing. Went about as well as one would expect. Yeah. Okay, another one coming next week, Halloween Kills, which also got delayed for an entire year. I ended up reviewing Halloween H2O, which was actually pretty decent, I thought. It was like basically like the last time in the 90s where they only tried to take like the first couple ones as canon and disregarded all the other follow-ups. I'll admit it's not the most complex timeline and I've seen horror that honestly goes to the Saw franchise. And even though I might not be able to see it right away, I will still do like the original Halloween 2 from 1981 on the celebrate. I think John contributed some to that one, but he was mostly occupied with directing his remake of The Thing, which he could not do so much. And I definitely. And the tone's going to be pretty similar to the first one, which I actually rather enjoyed, mixing with horror and even dark comedy elements in there as well. Like, when you have the Anime Pineapple Express behind your movie, you kind of gotta expect that. Yeah. Okay. Eternals, November the 5th. I'm doing my best not to feed too much in the rumor mill of spin, and but I still think it might be interesting. Like, once again, like the other ones I have seen, I have not read that many of the comics based on these characters, so I'm going to be once again entering the movie as its own thing, as I've known to do. But we just came off a successful spy caper and a martial arts fantasy story with a mainly Asian main and so I definitely think it should be interesting to see how this plays out. I don't know much about the antagonists, and I'm not sure if they're going to be connected to potential setups about Fantastic Four or the X-Men entering the franchise. Eyes, eyes, but I would say, hey, that on a basic level, I am glad that Shang-Chi's success has given and and studios audience more confidence in like putting their works in theaters first and also making and then putting them at home later. Same deal like having like physical copies. Like how I'm not gonna pick up every single one willy nilly. Like I usually pick up specific ones and I have specific interest in. And typically, and Marvel, well, just happens to be one of those interests. very eager to see how they keep experimenting in Phase 4 and 5, and I think between these movies, as well as the success of like the Disney Plus shows, that Medium article that showed up in my email has already aged pretty poorly, I'd say. Yeah. And on that note, Spider-Man No Way Home, December 17th. I still submit after the year that was. This is definitely a Christmas present we could all use. Who's in some way, I definitely know I could, man. And once again, I'm expanding on points I brought up before, like the worst kept secret was not just bringing in the previous two actors to wear the mask. I mean, with the visual effects team, seemingly he's spilling the beans about Garfield and Maguire's version of the character joining Holland's, which I actually am okay with. Because you need all help you can get, given how they also bring in members of the respective rogues galleries as well. I mean, potentially finding a way to do that Sinister Six spin-off, as well as maybe like the fourth Maguire film and the third Garfield film we never got. Man, so and on top of some of the previous ones coming back, like the most obvious ones are of like having like the pumpkin bomb of the Raimi Green Goblin, whether or not that's gonna be a Norman with Willem Dafoe or James Franco as Harry remains to be seen. I think Dafoe will probably be a safer bet. I still not seen The Lighthouse, but I heard it's really good. And yes, I also have definitely seen the memes about like the new Batman and starting the movie with the original Green Goblin, and also looking forward to seeing how Octavius plays a role with the Alfred Molina reprising the role as well. I mean, because like the second of that trilogy is still my favorite of like the not just the Raimi trilogy, but also of all the standalone movies so far. Or I mean, I'm keeping like the Venom movies, Spider Verse, also upcoming Morbius and Craven movies separate because it's kind of their own thing. Is what I admit in my book. I mean, and also they set up the Scorpion and the Stinger for her Homecoming, given how you had part of the suit on him as well as that Scorpion prison tattoo. Who I mean, who and with that in mind, and with that in mind, I mean, I had to wonder, given what I've seen on these merchandise, is Mysterio really gone? Definitely out of the question, given how the comic adaptations have shown you can't really get rid of him that easily. And with Jameson coming back in a big way, maybe we'll see how the conflict between him with him and Scorpion potentially, like where his hatred for Spider-Man is exceeding his hatred for Jameson, who he's responsible for traveling the Scorpion armor, and that might be cool to see play out. Last but not least is The Matrix Resurrections, and the fourth film in the Matrix franchise, not counting the anime anthology The Animatrix, which is something of both a sequel and a soft reboot of the franchise, which it sees Thomas Anderson, better known by his alias Neo, playing him with Keanu Reeves. The definitely gains some giant Silverhand vibes, a new look as well. I mean, as well as Carrie-Anne Moss, as well as Trinity, even though they with their Fates and Trilogy. I'm still going to review the sequels before this comes out. Don't worry. I'm joined by several new cast members, such as Yahya Abdul, Mateen II, and taking up the role of Morpheus. And to be fair, this is a fictional universe where it's not going to be as much of a stretch to suggest as that some characters can change form. That might show that happening in this trailer as well as in previous works, man. And I think something I'm interested to see, given how a lot, but not all of the cast are coming back, and I've seen some of those ones, understand why not everyone is, man. And it's like how I dare submit after 18 years, almost 2 full decades, it's definitely the right time to give this another shot, so to speak, and it should be another Christmas present I think we all could use. Who's I definitely know I could. Like coming out December 22nd, like just in time for winter solstice. I mean, and I don't know when my boost's gonna be ready and when I'll be eligible, but I definitely know I'm gonna prioritize this movie first. Then I'll probably just see The Kingsman later. Anyway, that's about it for now. Oh, I'm about 3 or 4 fifths away done with my review of Cars before I was working on other Pixar marathon scripts. I got the ball rolling on Black Widow spoiler review, and I will see you all again soon. Take care, everyone.